From the Foundation Studio, right here, not on Biloxi's Back Bay this week, but from the Mississippi Delta. I'm literally in a grain bin office on Dunn Farms, up here enjoying some time with my son Justin. My son Jordan will be joining us, but we're thrilled to be here at this special time of the year as we continue to celebrate every single Monday at lunchtime the world-class outdoors of the state of Mississippi, because as I say every week, we are the capital of the outdoors in America. I want to thank you for joining us on the powerful SuperTalk Mississippi Radio Network. So many of you are in your cars right now going from between family and friends here on January the 1st, 2024. It's amazing that we're already here. But some of you may be watching on SuperTalk TV at C Spire TV, or on YouTube or Facebook, or listening on your favorite podcast. However you choose to join us, we really, really appreciate you. And Happy New Year to you, as we all now find this moment of reflection as we look back on last year and look forward to next year. Hey, I especially want to thank the Foundation for Mississippi Wildlife Fisheries and Parks. They do such great work in this state. And I always point out that the views on my show are mine, not those of the Foundation. When it comes to the outdoors and outdoors issues, you can count on me to say what needs to be said, and I am honored to be in this position. I've got a really special show today. I've got my friend Cuzz Strickland joining me from the Mossy Oaks team, and we're going to reflect about this time of the year. We're going to talk a little bit about his podcast. Had some great shows recently, and he's someone that I just enjoy catching up with. Ronnie, how you doing, my friend?
I'm good. First off, Happy New Year. And second, congratulations on that beast of a whitetail you got. I saw that picture pop up and I said, you couldn't get that grin off of Ricky's face with a crowbar. So congratulations.
Thank you, man. It was a deer we had 3 years of history on. And my son my son Jordan really hunted it hard. He's a lawyer on the coast, so he doesn't get to come up as much as we would hope. And so we went in working hard to try to get it, my friend Jake and I, and I got lucky. I wish I could tell you an amazing story, but the reality is it just came out and started eating on the food plot. And when I saw it, it was 5:15. It was a little bit dark, and it was kind of faced toward me. When I first saw it, it was eating grass. I thought it was a doe, and then I looked through my binoculars and I saw that incredible frame. Of course, you know now 160 7/8 inches is what it scored. Mm-hmm. It was just a beast of a 9-point with a kicker, just a beautiful deer. We called it Stickers is the name of that deer. But I just got lucky, man. I was in the right place at the right time, and I took a deer of the lifetime.
Yep, that's fixing to say that's one of those lifetime deer. But hey, that's kind of how it happens. You know, it's good things happen to good people. In Mississippi, I've been here my whole life, and I've traveled and filmed and done all that stuff. But in Mississippi, you know, the rut is not quite as intense as it may be in the Midwest, and you just got to be there. You sit there long enough, those bucks will show themselves, because they're usually vampires all the other time of the year.
Very, very nocturnal. That's the story of this specific deer. We called him he was like a ghost, because he'd show up at 7 o'clock at night. He'd show up at 1 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. He was just, you never knew. There was really no regularity to him. It's probably one of the reasons he lived so long. But again, we just happened to be in the right place at the right time. With the ruts going on, we hunt near Greenwood. One of the farms we hunt on is near Greenwood, and then we hunt down in Chula, and then we have another farm that I lease up in Minter City. And Minter City is, the peak of the rut's happening there. Around the Greenwood area, it's starting to kind of pick up here. My son and two of his friends are out literally as we speak hunting. And he saw an 8-point chasing just a few minutes ago. I just got a note from him saying he saw a 6-point chasing. They're seeing some really dynamic stuff this morning. But it's starting to happen, and it's good to see. Yeah, you're right, though. We tend to get in a lockdown mode, where it gets really quiet a little bit, But we've been. I guess they're lucky they're in the right place at the right time this morning.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, and we look forward to it. And the magic day at our farm is, Christmas Eve. But I tell everybody from, around Christmas to the first week of January, that's when it happens up here where I live. I'm actually in Chickasaw County, But it's a fun time. That's why you do all that work, and hopefully somebody will get them a big one. It'll happen quick if it's going to happen up here. But yeah, very special, and the fact you can do it with your boys and your family, that's priceless.
That is, and you with your grandsons, it's so much fun to watch y'all's experiences together. You know, you go back and look at, through the summer and then into bow season, and then of course as we get closer to gun season, we were dealing with one of the biggest droughts the state's ever seen. I mean, even still in sloughs and some of the ponds that we have access to, they're dry as a bone still, even now. Now we got good strategic rain at the right moment, and the food plots came up. They're a little anemic, but they're doing good enough to bring the deer onto them. That's the good news. But it's different hunting this year, especially on one of our farms, a farm up in Mentor City. We've got large stretches of bottom that usually have tons of water in it, which push the deer out, and they're all dry as a bone right now. So it's really changed, the hunting for us. It's just every year is a little bit different, but this year is strange in a way, isn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was very dry and stressful. And it's funny how we've changed. Back when I started hunting, there was no such thing as a food plot or a trail camera, any of that stuff. But now we kind of depend on them. And I planted about 10 acres of corn, thank goodness, and it got plenty of rain. So I got a really good stand of corn. I've mowed a little bit of it down, but yeah, I got some. That was a good term you came up. I got 3 or 4 fairly anemic food plots, and it's the ones that made it. That got a little late rain were the ones that were planted really good, real good seed bed, no dead grass. You had to have everything perfect, and they popped up. So it was another year of learning stuff. Do better preparation in case you have a drought. But hey, God always provides. So we got some green, and we're enjoying sitting and watching.
Yeah, we, as I mentioned to you before, we use a drill on about 90% of our stuff now. So the stuff that got drilled, those seeds were a little bit more protected because the seeds were a little bit deeper. We did some old school plots as well where we couldn't get the drill in, and those are starting to come up pretty good as well. The problem is where you see a lot of deer. If you have an anemic food plot to begin with, and then they get hammered with deer. It didn't take long for them to become nubs. But when there's not a lot of food nearby anyway, it still draws the deer in. But that's really the story across Mississippi. As I talk to people, you see pictures of people posting their deer harvests, and you see in the background every now and then you see a beautiful green food plot, but usually you see a kind of green food plot. That's a lot of people have kind of green food plots all across Mississippi. But man, we're lucky to have that, aren't we?
Yeah, we got, it went weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks with nothing, and then we got an inch and a half, and I got another half inch, and you're right. I didn't put the utilization cages out, and I got a couple that look like the top of a pool table. They're green. Technically, they're green. There's just nothing left, which tells you the deer are hungry. And, I plant some 2 or 3 really big ones we don't really hunt over. That's just kind of food for the deer. And luckily, those did really well. So I'm blessed. But anybody gets to go hunting is blessed. So I can't complain about the rain. We got some when we absolutely had to have it.
Hey, I watched you do your corn. You were proud of that corn, and that corn came up really good. You got it. You planted it at the right time. And how has that served you in terms of the deer getting in there?
They, and by the way, I planted that with a drill. I didn't have a planter. I planted it with a drill and got the most comments off that. But I've worked the soil good, and I've planted it before, but for some reason I got a bumper crop. It's probably because I took a soil sample and added, whatever I needed to add. But I got about 9 or 10 acres, and I have so much ag around me. They don't really get into it much. But now when those temps start hitting like they, those mid-20s and all the browse is gone, man, they started using it then. Sadly, the biggest one I got's in the middle of a place. We call it the dove field. And by the time they get out there to it, it's dark. but I didn't really leave the corn there to hunt on it. I left it there for the food source, and they are officially in it. I, I mowed down. I called Grant Woods, and I talked to Toxie, and Grant Woods is up in the Midwest and all. And I said, should I mow my corn down? And he got in depth talking about how they do it, and he was talking about the deer will get it better, and it'll be more attractive if it's mowed down with your bush hog because of their incisors. He said the angle they have to go at it on the stalk, it makes their teeth sore. And I was like, good gracious.
That's so interesting. In fact, we're having a discussion about that now. When we come back on the other side, we'll finish that part of the conversation, and then we'll talk about what's the holidays look like for Cuzz these days. We'll see you after this break as we continue our conversation with Ronnie Cuzz Strickland. Welcome back to Super Talk Outdoors from the Foundation Studio right here, this time in the Mississippi Delta at Dunn Farms. My good friends at Dunn Farms, they let me use an office here at their grain bins. I look outside and I see beautiful grain bins, and behind me, a large, very large farm field that has obviously been harvested. I have my friend Ronnie Cuzz Strickland with us, and before we went to break here on this January the 1st, this New Year's Day, as we welcome everyone a Happy New Year. We were talking about before we went to break that he learned from Grant that it's probably better to mow your corn down, that it's easier for the deer to eat them. So what'd you decide to do, Cuzz?
Yeah, well, I went ahead and I mowed about a third of it, and I looked at it when I first mowed a third of it. It was still fairly early, and I would ride by there on my little electric buggy, and I could see a lot of yellow laying on the ground. And I went probably a week ago or 2 weeks ago, and everything that was mowed down, so to speak. They were really get to it. So I'm probably going to mow another third and just let them eat it up. Like I say, it's not in a great place to hunt. It's just good food. And I was blessed because, like we said, the food plots didn't do much. And I'm always wanting to feed the deer. You know, my management goal was always to carry maximum amount of deer. I wanted maximum capacity. If the deer gets big and old, then fine. But I wanted the grandkids and everybody to see deer. I didn't want to have too many, but I wanted to be able to feed enough to where they would always see something and keep it interesting. So I plant a lot of food, and luckily I got a good stand of corn when I needed it the most this year.
Yeah, that is definitely true. You know, I was thinking, Cuzz, before we did the show today, that for so many years in multiple TV formats, you guys were doing shows as part of the Mossy Oak team, and you probably didn't get to come home very often this time of year, did you?
You know, it was tough, and I can remember one stretch when there wasn't a lot of help and things were fixing to kick. I think I was home maybe 3 times in a 60-day stretch. Now, of course, we tried to get home for Thanksgiving and make sure we were home for Christmas. And if I was traveling too much, it was my fault. You know, Toxie, he would never say, you know, stay till you get 6 hunts or something like that. I was just, you can't have enough content, especially when you're, you know, we had 5 shows running at one time. But yeah, it was kind of like being in the Army. You know, it's funny when I had a really good group of like 8 or 9, I call them field producers. And we had a sequence of things we had to do when we were on the road. You know, this kind of interview, this kind of setup shot, this kind of all that. And one of them was a scenics. I said, do not come back here without a bunch of scenics. And one time I took all those scenics into my computer and I made a DVD with just soft music and all these beautiful shots. And I gave them all a DVD and I said, give that to your mom, because nobody knows where you've been. Nobody knows how hard you work, and just let them see that. And because people have no idea. Everybody still thinks, man, it must be nice. You get to hunt all over the country and all that. I'm like, nah, not really. I kind of hunt on my farm right in the wildlife refuge, but it's yeah, it's much easier now, with cell phones. I just got back from Texas, and about half we're going to do a good video from it, but about half of it I shot with my phone, and the rest was a little bitty Canon EOS. It's not the same thing as it used to be, but yes, the back then and still today, the holidays are very special for me because
Well, man, I remember how heavy those cameras were as you and Will
yeah,
Primos did your thing together. You really revolutionized outdoor hunting, filming outdoor hunting at that time. It's amazing. Looking back, it's amazing you actually pulled that off.
it is, and there was no manual on what to do, and nobody, the only hunting video I had seen was Gene and Barry Winslow did one called Bow Hunting October Whitetails. But to go on television, that's a different level of broadcast quality. And I've always been very, very proud that we pulled that off as a Mississippi company. Because I'm telling you, people had zero faith, but we got some of the best hunters around right here, and everybody had that part down. We got to figure out how to shoot it with broadcast quality equipment, which sounds funny because if I was shooting one of those cameras we had back now, it would look terrible. It's nowhere near as clear as this 4K phone is. But yeah, it was fun, and I don't live in the past, but it was. You're right. We were lucky to pull that off.
Well, listen, my son has a really good camera. He paid over $1,000 for his camera. He loves to film his hunts, and he always encourages me to bring the camera because I see a lot of deer, and he thinks it's pretty awesome that when I see the deer that I can zoom in, and with his good camera.
Yeah.
And it's he'll bow hunt with this camera, and that's hard to do.
Yeah, bow hunting's hard anyway. I was filming a guy bow hunting out in Texas, and the deal with bow hunting is you got to get them so close, and there's no room for error, and it's hard enough to make the right decisions of when to draw and when to move, and you add a self-filmed camera to that, it's man, you just beating yourself up. It's really, really, really hard, and
it's really hard for sure. So you think back now that you're sort of off the road in the way that you were for all those years, and you get a chance to kind of soak up your family and your grandsons. Holidays for you mean a lot more these days, don't they?
Yeah, it's been so fun, and we've always been pretty tight and lucky, and thank the good Lord above. Both of my girls married great guys, and they're close. Lauren and Richard have a house out there on our farm, and Amy's just 30 minutes north in Tupelo. So, and I don't know if that's a big compliment to me, probably their mom, but to have them so close is a blessing. Even when you have to share with in-laws, sometimes they're there, sometimes. And I tell these younger guys all the time, I said, you need to realize when your kids get married, then that's their family, and you're not on the priority list no more, and just deal with it. But luckily, we always have them home. Now they may swap this Thanksgiving, they're down there and all that, but even the in-laws are close. So yeah, I'm blessed beyond belief, but I'm telling you, there's not a day goes by I don't think about how blessed we are, and everybody's right here in North Mississippi.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I actually can't wait to have one of your daughters, the producer of your show, and your wife on, so we can have a conversation. One of my favorite podcasts you did on Fistful of Dirt is when you had both of your daughters. And I think you guys had just had Thanksgiving dinner, and you all sat down and did a show together, and you feel the connection. You feel how everyone is in sync with each other, and how much you appreciate family and the outdoors together. That when you look back, that has to be one of your favorite shows.
Yeah, it is. And I always follow Lauren's lead. She's the one that came up with all this, and because in the beginning, I told her on the podcast, I said, Lauren, nobody's going to listen to this. And she's like, you have no idea. And that Thanksgiving episode, we've done that twice, was like one of the most downloaded episodes it is. And I think that was because it was a woman's point of view on there. And for whatever reason. You know this, and we've talked about it. People are looking for good, wholesome, inspiring content. And, as a social media influencer, I don't worry about giant deer and the latest bow or the best broadhead. I try to do something that's going to kind of bring them into the club. And if it inspires them good, everybody wants to be in the club. And I don't mind sharing my stuff with other people. And if they're inspired, good. Because people are looking for that. They ain't everybody's so busy selling, and I get it. But I kind of get away from that. So,
hey, listen, it was interesting when we were getting set up. I want the listeners to know Lauren actually stopped by to kind of help you get set up. For people who listen to Fistful of Dirt, in fact, if you don't listen to it, I really highly recommend it. Go to your favorite podcast platform and take a listen, because they cover such a wide variety of topics. But what more than anything, as you pointed out, it's just fun conversations, with really interesting people. But Lauren has become a bit of a celebrity of her own. I mean, she joins you at the beginning of those podcasts, and y'all talk about life and the upcoming podcast, and then you go to the podcast. She's got this very quickly identifiable voice, and she's done a really good job producing you, hasn't she? I tell you what, we're at the end of this segment. We'll pick up on the other side about how fun the podcast has really been and how much fun it's been to work with Lauren on it. We'll cover that with Ronnie Cuzz Strickland when we come back on the other side. We'll see you after this break. Welcome back to Super Talk Outdoors from the Mississippi Delta studio today, the Foundation studio, the Foundation for the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks, the major sponsor of our show. Incredible group of volunteers that work so hard to protect our wildlife legacy in this state. We're lucky to have such a dedicated group of volunteers, leaders in this state, and they're incredibly aligned, and I'm thrilled to be associated with them. We're visiting with my friend Ronnie Cuzz Strickland from the Mossy Oak Gang. You know him from a long history of TV shows, and now his Fistful of Dirt podcast. If you follow him on social media, you see that he loves the outdoor. He loves family. In fact, when we went to break, we were talking about his daughter, Lauren, producing the show. But, she's really got a good eye for your podcast, doesn't she, Cuzz?
Yeah, she really does. She thinks outside the box. And her youngest son, Ben, a.k.a. Cranky, he's got an old soul too. But when some people are just better at that, because when we started this and she was telling me what we need to talk about, I told her, I said, Lauren, nobody's going to listen to this. And she said, you have no idea. But her perspective is different, having, younger kids and knowing what's relevant and what they're looking for. And it's like you say, if you just watch news and keep up with politics, you'll start thinking everybody's just lost their mind, but they haven't. And I'm blessed to be able to create some content that they don't have to monitor if your kid's in the truck or whatever else. And she kind of called that a long time ago. But the whole Mossy Oak brand, it's kind of been like that. Toxie was never in front of that camera much, and hey, let's tell good stories. And I had a guy at ESPN. We moved from TNN to ESPN. I forgot what year it was, and we were having a meeting, and he was trying to explain television to me, and I was looking at them going, y'all don't know anything about hunting. And but we were both 100% correct. They didn't know nothing about hunting. I didn't know anything about TV, but he made the point. He said stories will never go out of style, and he was right. So we concentrate on stories and upbeat stuff, and again, it's done way better than I ever dreamed it would. It's pretty humbling, but with that notoriety comes a responsibility. As you well know, you got to do the work. You got to put out that content and hold it between the ditches and do what you say you're going to do.
You do. And here's you and I have chatted about this before, but you can't fake it. People will know pretty quickly. Mississippi hunters and outdoorsmen and women, they're smart. They're really smart. So they can pick out someone trying to fake it, just very quickly.
Yeah, they are smart. I tell people, I couldn't begin to tell you how many seminars and speaking engagements I've had. And if it's a big hunting crowd, I'll look at it across there and say, look, before we get started, I understand half of you know as much as I do, and the other half probably know more. But this is what I've learned lugging this 80-pound camera around, and that kind of relaxes everybody and gets them in a good frame of mind to listen. But yeah, I was talking to a guy in Texas last week, and I said, he was talking about the same thing. I said, look, the best hunters in the country you'll never meet because you won't ever know who they are. And that's
Yeah.
true. Just because you got a lot of followers on Instagram or Facebook don't mean you're good at something other than marketing. It may be you just got a better place.
There's so many ways. The interesting thing, me having come from digital media and from media in general, there's so many different platforms today to be able to get your point across. One of the cool things about SuperTalk Mississippi Media, the company that has this show, is that first of all, the radio side is so strong. I still amazed when I just pop in a store in the middle of nowhere, and someone they see my hat and they say, hey, yeah, I listened to that show. I enjoyed what you did last week. But it's humbling because I enjoy doing it. I enjoy getting to know people like you. I enjoy bragging about Mississippi being the capital of the outdoors in America and all those things. But just so happens that people pay attention to it as well. And that to me is a gift. It's a gift to be able to be in this position to tell stories with people like you and touch people in a way that they want to come back again and again. And some listen to it on the radio, some listen to it in YouTube or Facebook, some listen to it on Spotify or whatever their favorite podcast platform might be. And, that's humbling. I love being able to do that and touch people in this way.
Yeah, well, that's how you're going to reach them. I mean, if you're not sending stuff to their phone or their iPad, you're not going to reach them. But like I say, the struggle for me is I was like, I can talk to guys my age and especially about hunting stuff, but I don't want to interest the kids. And luckily for me, I'm telling you, I have more Instagram followers and I told you this, between like 15 and 28. And that's what they love, is hunting stories and back in the day kind of stuff. And if they're learning something, that's good. But it is very humbling. And again, with that comes a responsibility. You got to you got to shake them hands and keep your A game going and be nice and answer people. And nothing worse than meeting somebody you've been watching forever, and you meet them in person and they're a jerk.
No, I hate that.
I refuse to be the jerk. Now, I'm sure somebody's got a different opinion of that, maybe for whatever reason. But it's like, hey, if it's important to them, it's important to me.
I'm with you, buddy. I'm with you 100%. Hey, we shared these notes before, but it is interesting. From my other show, the Ricky Matthews Show, the listeners, we talk a lot about leadership in the community and those kinds of things, and it tends to skew older. One of the great things about podcast platform and social media, you get a lot of data about who's engaging with your show. And on Super Talk Outdoors, it skews younger. A wide range of people for sure, but a lot younger folks are really engaged in it. And boy, that's great to see, man, because that means we're touching people with the kind of stuff that we would hope our kids and our grandkids would be interacting with. And that makes a real difference, doesn't it?
It does. And I've been blessed to see, I raised my kids and now they have their own families, and I got to help raise the grandkids and see what triggers them. And I have a lot of faith, like I told you, in that really young crowd. They ask hard questions because they're interested in what we're doing and how we got to this point. And it's inspiring. I was up in an academy in Tupelo the other day, and I don't know if you saw this post, but I walked by the aisle and I glanced. I said, that was bottomland. It was 4 young boys in there, head to toe in bottomland. So I went up and talked to them. They were duck hunting or headed duck hunting. Took a picture and posted it about, hey, just when you think the world's going nuts, you just run into this. And it got some of the best comments. And I got all their Instagram accounts and started following them. And I sent them the picture. And they want to be in the club too. And so the least we can do is try to get our content to their platform.
Hey, listen, man, I saw the picture that you're talking about. For really handsome young men. I think 3 of them had their face paint on still, and
Yeah,
man, you could tell, buddy, they were serious. These kids were serious duck hunters.
yeah, yeah. We couldn't talk duck hunting. That's not my cup of tea. But we could talk about other things. And you know, my oldest grandson Walker, he's just duck crazy now. He's since bow season. I don't know if he's been deer hunting one time, but I don't care if that's what he loves. So be it. Lauren's middle boy Matt, he loves to camp and work on axes and stuff. But you know what? He's always outside. It's like, hey, and I tell him all the time, look, you do you. You find something that's happy, gets you off of that phone. I don't care what it is. You know, Cranky went to trapping. He's twiddling his thumbs right now, waiting to get trapping started. But you gotta find what interests them, help them. They're gonna get bloody noses and all that. But yeah, it's inspiring to me see a bunch of young teenagers in Bottomland with their face painted, headed to the duck pond or wherever they were going. That fires me up.
Thinking about your 3 grandkids, it's fun kind of following their story and seeing how they each have, found themselves and their loves of the outdoors. And Lauren, it's clear that she's not surprised that Cranky became sort of the celebrity that he's become. Because if you listen, I really want to encourage people to go listen to Cuzz's Fistful of Dirt podcast with Spanky. I mean, we've always heard about this older soul, but man, when you listen to that conversation and hear him tell his stories and how he tells the stories, he's going to be running this podcast one day. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah. We were over in Alabama before Christmas, and I didn't get Walker there. Walker was doing another event on his Christmas break, and but I had Cranky and his older brother Matt and their dad Richard. And Richard killed a giant deer. I sent you a picture of that not long ago. But anyway, I was sitting with Cranky filming, and he killed a giant big deer to him 2 years ago there. And when we got there, he said, "Pop, I'm not shooting one any bigger, any littler." And we were walking out, and I was filming him, and I said, "Cranky, you like your trip?" He said, "Pop, I've been coming here many years, and this was my best one ever."
Let's let you finish on the other side. This is Ronnie Cuzz Strickland. We'll see you after this break. Welcome back to Super Talk Outdoors. I have my dear friend Ronnie Cuzz Strickland. I'm enjoying this January the 1st, New Year's Day special edition of Super Talk Outdoors. There's a lot of you in your cars going in between family. Some of you headed hunting. Some of you are coming back from hunting. Everyone has their traditions that they do on New Year's Day, and I'm privileged to know that you're listening to this show as we speak. But when we went to the break, we were talking about Ronnie was telling us a story about going over to Alabama and hunting with Spanky's father with one of Spanky's brothers, and Spanky said, he's been doing this a lot of years. And tell the group how old he was when he said that.
Yeah, he's 11 years old, and he talks like he's 40. He's got an old soul just like his brother. But he said, "Yeah, Pop," he said, "I've been coming over here a lot of years, but this may be my best visit." He got to squirrel hunt. And they went trapping some hogs and stuff, but that kind of imprints them. And I wanted that to be their comfort zone. Everybody needs to have their comfort zone. And they're comfortable outdoors. They're comfortable around firearms and some of the safest people you'll ever hunt with. And that's who I want to hang out with. I could get to go with a bunch of celebrities back in the day, but that's where I want to be, is on my little farm hunting with them, whether we see a giant deer or not. Who cares?
Yeah, it's gonna be fun watching them grow up. Hey, listen, I always end every single show of Super Talk Outdoors with a reminder for people to be safe. And I've had a couple of shows where I focused on safety in general and told some, in some cases, almost horrific stories. It's hunting. We're teaching everyone to be safe and how, as you pointed out, your grandsons, how to handle a firearm, etc. And what I find is that some of the most severe incidences that happen in the state usually happen with an experienced hunter, someone who just kind of dropped their guard, forgot to unload a gun, for example, or didn't do the basic, safety requirements on checking a leaning ladder stand that they're going to get into, and so on. It's amazing, that we still have accidents like that, but it's important for us to constantly remind folks. And because I talk about it, people will send me stories about the close call that almost happened, or putting a 308 bullet into a 270 gun and what it did to the rifle. It's a miracle that the kid lived through that scenario. But we can never focus on safety enough, can we, Cuzz?
No, and you're right. When you get lackadaisical, that's when something happens. So, and I was talking to some people at the last hunting event I was in, and they made a comment about when Cranky or Matt walked up, that bolt action's open. And I said, they do that. Everybody should, because you don't have to ask. You can look and see the gun's empty and the bolt's open. And I can't tell you how many people would get mad at me back in the day, because I'd ask them, is your gun, experienced hunters, is your gun unloaded? Yes. What do you think I am? I said, open the bolt, and I won't have to ask. And I didn't care if they got mad or not.
Me neither.
But it's like, that's a simple maneuver. Breach your shotgun open, or open the bolt, open the chamber, so I don't have to ask. But yeah, that's always been the number one priority. Same way with practicing and all that, because you don't get any redos in that world. Usually. No, so,
you don't. You don't. As I say to my sons and now my grandson, you don't get a second chance. Usually you don't. That's true if we're 100 miles offshore in the boat. You got to be safe. You got to put safety first. I've told the stories, but it was worthy of being told again. One guy sent me a note and said that he had killed a deer. He put another bullet in the chamber, got down from his stand, and was watching the deer to make sure it didn't jump back up again. But he was so excited about the deer, he forgot that he had chambered another bullet, and he didn't put it back on safety. So he walked about 500 yards back to his truck, and as he was taking his gun off of his shoulder, he brushed the trigger, and the gun went off, and it went off into the woods. But he could have had his grandson with him or his son with him. That's right. And you can see how in the excitement of the moment you could forget something like that. It's just really unfortunate that those kind of things happen, or someone unloading a gun inside a mud room. And so, unfortunately, sometimes if you unload them by just pulling it back, some of them are sensitive, and a gun goes off and goes through two walls, ricochets off a safe, and hits someone in the thigh. So people just need to just realize there's no second chances. No second chances. In fact, we do the same thing. Somebody comes in the house with a gun, bolt action has to be open. Listen, Cuzz, it's been a pleasure to spend some time with you, my friend. Happy New Year to you.
Oh, same to you. And again, Happy New Year. God bless you for your message and the vehicle. You make such good use of it. Happy New Year to your staff and everybody else. And hey, looking forward to, the good thing about fall and the deer season and it's turkey season right around the corner. We'll have to talk. We'll have to talk again.
God bless you, my friend, and God bless the listeners. Hope you had a great day today. Have a happy New Year, and we'll see you next Monday.